Camera's broken. Feel free to send some money to my cash app so I can buy a new phone with a or get my glass fixed. So I just have to get this said and off my chest, yo, like, because I'm so tired of seeing this, and I know I'm not the only one who thinks this, of course, but a lot of folks been keeping their mouth shut, trying to be at peace, but fuck it, because I'm at the point where it's whatever. I'm so fucking tired. I mean, of course, I think we're all fucking tired of people saying, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, whatever bullshit. And the only way to really make it out, of course, the only way to make it out this game is to play the game, of course, and then try to buy your freedom because it's what's always been about. I'm so tired of hearing this whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of argument. I think we all are. Unless I mean, of course, obviously, to operate in this world, to, you know, give something to let operate for you. Maybe it's just the way I personally feel because I know, like, in sort of the priestly sort of role that I'm in or I'm taking up, that my drive isn't capitalistic or by material gain. It's about spiritually building myself up and spiritually helping others. That's what my goal is. So the material stuff, I mean, in a real sense, it just kind of gets in my way. Like, the physical just gets in the way so much. These fleshly desires and all this kind of stuff. And so we turn to religions to try to temper ourselves, which is good for to temper yourself and to remember who you are and where you came from, and to help you get your vision straight about where you're going. But we have to put those things away at a certain point, obviously, and really get to know the root of who we are ourselves. And of course, when you reach a certain point, you are uh, transforming that to make maybe to make a difference in the world or to build something or whatever. But I feel like I just can't but help but feel like this whole Western sort of concept likes to make everyone feel special in a way. And I'm like, it's not as if we aren't special individually, of course, but the whole individualized concept of Western society makes people feel more special than they should, or they feel above others. Like, niggas need to calm down out here. Like, we all niggas. So let's get that off first of all. We all niggas, and we all know what we're here to do, or at least some of us know what we're here to do, and that doesn't make anybody more or less special. The point of us, the rest of us who's figured out what we're here to do, is to do our thing. So, like, we can't go around telling people, whatever. Everyone's gonna wake up at their own speed or whatever like that. And some people definitely need to wake up sooner than later to wake up other people who need to be woken up. And, like, everything in divine timing. And, like, capitalism really this capitalist structure takes that from us. Like, I don't think we're, like, someone said we're inherently capitalist or something like that. I mean, we're inherently meant want to trade with others and build with others. We want to create a social network with each other. But this world around us has taken what we naturally do and has exploited it into, you know, like, of course, we want to create things and we want to build things and we want to, you know, love each other and do everything. All the stuff that we want to do, we know we want to do, as human beings on this earth, operating. But, and there's things that we want to do on another level. We want to do stuff for other people. We want to have a family. We want to, make sure our communities are safe and well organized. And also, like, we also want to, um, how you say, um, you know, do things for each other, and we know and on another level is taking care of other people, like taking care of our elders, taking care of children, taking care of being a teacher. I mean, we're all teachers in a way, but being like a real teacher, making sure the kids are good, and being a doctor, make sure people are staying healthy and people know what good food is around. um, these are all, there's so many different hats and roles to be played out to make a society work together. And I think people do have a natural tendency for what they're actually meant to do. But because of the capitalist structure that we're in, people aren't doing what they want to do. They're doing what they want to make money at. Like in that movie. So I'm glad someone brought it back up for me. Remember it in that movie with when they made that fake college, South Harmon Institute of Technology, right? And the guy at the end was like, even the chairman dude was like, I want to be a jazz musician, but I became a fucking board member of this board somehow, right? And it's a completely stupid board that's unnecessary because, why do you need regulations to make a school in the first place? Like, that whole movie, oh my gosh, that movie is actually way more conscious. I mean, like, all this bullshit, right? Because we're just trying to learn from each other anyway. Like that was like probably the realest school, just because they actually wanted to come together and they wanted to do something together and they, wanted to learn from each other and learn real skills of things that they actually wanted to know. And oh man, that movie's more conscious than I thought. So this world, it's just bullshit, right? A lot of it's bullshit. But I think it also tells more about what can happen when we all really put our, you know, if that movie speaks more about like if we put it all together, we can all put our resources and whatever together and build an actual place that needs to be. Like I literally like I really have been thinking about this for a long time. Like I have so many things I feel like would solve the problems that we're facing in this world. Like we can build this on our own. Like for real, for real. It's so like if that could be if that movie was trying to tell us something for real, like we can really build this shit on our own. And all we have to do is just put things together and just eliminate some of the other bullcrap, and naturally it'll fall into place. Like, okay, so they got like a random abandoned building, right? And they fixed it up themselves, or it was worked on as they were in it, because it's everything's a progress, everything's a work in progress. But as long as we're starting making the first stepping stone towards it, it's going to get there. Like for like, so here's one of the major ideas I've had recently, or just these are just one of the solutions I figured this for people's problems. It's like obviously we have to put our monies together, right? Because there's a bunch of money in our community, but we keep letting it go out the community or out of, into everything else because we deal with bills and groceries and, all the stuff that this world is giving us to make sure that we don't ever keep it for ourselves and use it for ourselves. So, I hope that isn't like. So one thing is, there's a whole lot of abandoned vacant lots out here, that are capable for handling, um, tons of people at a time, tons of, you know, like it's a durable, it's meant for, you know, a lot of people. So we can put our resources together, put our energy together. There are um, abandoned malls all over the place, abandoned vacant strip malls, abandoned homes. I drove through Macon the other day. I was like, man, there's really all these decent homes right now, but but probably no one owns them, or the bank is sitting on them, or it's whatever, But there's space out there to grab. People, when people say get a plot of land, get a home, it really means get a home, get a house that has a yard in it. That's a plot of land. So don't. So when people are saying all this stuff about get a plot of land, Like, they really just means get a house with a yard. That's all you need, the house with a yard starting off, you know? Or just any piece of property, any home. There's a bunch of abandoned homes out here that just need to be taken that should be taken up. That while these fucking billionaires are buying that shit up from us, from right up under us, and China and all that kind of stuff, and make sure the land is owned, vertically and underneath, uh so get like there's so much land around really, but we just don't know how to access it because they put it behind all these walls of bureaucracy. So we really need people who know how to read this shit. Like all the people that are doing scams and shit, like y'all are the people that we really need out here to read this. You read these tax laws, to read these property laws. Like you guys are the real researchers that we need out here. But you guys are using your talents, um, maybe not so well, But if you can apply that same you apply the same processing towards doing something for the greater good instead of selfish gains or capitalist gains. That's all it takes is just a shift of intention to get things really rolling here. And just yeah. And so those are the people that we really need out here to like research this stuff real deep, find the loopholes. Like you people who are good at finding loopholes and shit, you are the ones that are key out here to helping us get our shit together. But you have to get like don't think you can't use it spiritually. That's how the spirit needs you to use it. That's how me as a spiritual person needs you to use that skill because it'll empower both of us spiritually and materially. But you gotta put the spirit first. That's what it is. So, that out the way. So we get these vacant lots, right? All these vacant lots, they're all, you can grow food on any of these spaces. There's soil, there's sunlight, there's water. You can grow something on it. You can grow it organically. We can raise, goats and sheeps and, some cattle, I guess, if people really want to be making steaks. But, yeah, but, to have any sort of animal raised on it if that's what you want to do, or raise food on it. Um, uh, yeah, because you don't need that much land to really do it. With a small little setup, it doesn't take much to raise the land up or to get it together. Um, People who are like the militia, the oath keepers, our gangs, you know, we need you guys to be the protectors of our community. That's what you guys are meant to do. Like people who are truly driven by their camaraderie with their brotherhood and also about the protection of their community, like stop seeking out glory and pride out in the streets for doing violence to our own people, to your own community, because that just creates more violence. And we had to go through a stage of like forgiveness in a way. And like true forgiveness is just like, you know, I see you for who you are because you are me. And I understand it is an understanding of I understand why you did this and why we engaged in this game or why we engaged in this, these activities, because we were played like, everyone's being played like pieces on a board out here. So you have to understand where you are and why you're doing, who you are and why you're doing what you're doing and what put you here and how you can get out of it. And this is how we can get out of it. It's just by changing your allegiance, which is so easy to do, honestly. I mean, it's not so easy to do because you have to unlearn a lot of things. But when you unlearn this Western structure, which is meant to hyper individualize us, separate us from our communities, and then create these little mini cults, instead of one great big cult, then I use the word cult, but it's like culture. So that is um, one way of that's just another aspect of how you can shift your view of things to a spiritual sense, and you realize the higher purpose that you actually have. It's not to be, you know, selling drugs or whatever, or being a violent person, being intimidating. You're being intimidating to your own people, Like people, we don't want to be scared of each other. We want to love each other, right? So start trying to scare everybody. Start trying to rape everybody, Start trying to exploit on your own people, you know? Like, because what I want to do, I don't want people to exploit each other, man. I really don't. I want people to love each other. Like, I want to love my people back equally, by understanding there's a healing process that does need to be done for us to even get halfway there. And you want to be able to trust each other. And, you know, like not being afraid of each other, That's trusting each other. Being loyal to each other. It's like no matter the distance or the time apart that we have, the love is always going to still be there. No matter what perceived, because I remember we're coming out of this, we're in this purgatory of, coming out of the illusion of what the society, this current society is like put onto us. We're coming out of that illusion, and we're like trying to see what we really need to be keeping, because there's a lot to discern with and a lot to be parted with, and there's a lot that's been mixed in as well. It's like the trees told me about the ivy. The ivy, ivy is a part of nature. Parasites of all kinds are a part of nature, but it's about being discerning, and it's about separating the ivy from the branches. It's about cutting away the ivy and seeing the trunk of the tree, and allowing the branches to breathe and it comes to life, not allowing the roots to be sapped dry by this parasitic energy, and that kills the whole tree. So it's about cutting away the ivy that has grown over everything. If you live in the South, kudzu's everywhere. So, and if enough ivy covers a tree, it'll kill the tree, because it'll have drained out the roots, choked out the branches, blocked out its own leaves, and stopped and then and when that happens, the ivy just keeps growing over it to the next tree. So we have some serious husbandry that needs to be done to our planet, of cutting away the ivies and clearing out the parasites. But yeah, on to the next thing. So when we have these vacant spaces and we have our protections, we have our protectors around it. We have uh, our lawyers handling all the documents and the bureaucracy of getting it around as well. And then we also have our gardeners and our agriculturalists. So with these, when we gain our lands, and our lands are protected, we can start growing on the land, and we definitely know how to grow on the lands. What's important is bringing life back to the land. But what's also important in this process, because I've been holding back all this, so it's a lot going to come out, y'all. So like, composting is, of course, ideal. It's the best thing to do with our waste. It's obviously the best thing to do with our waste. And before I guess I'll say this first while it's right there. So like this whole this industrial revolution has been draining our earth and destroying everything. And now they want to start doing things the green way, as if they already didn't know that existed, right? Because we already known to compost our waste and to separate and to recycle and reuse and reduce, obviously. But I feel like now these elites are just trying to move into the next way of draining the earth because now they've done all the horrible things they've done to the planet to destroy, to try to wreck the atmosphere and try to wreck the soil. Now they want to try to capitalize on the green movement. You know, it's like they forced, I guess, like they forced our hand into, they want to force the population into being green. Now they've exhausted the profitable structure of the hyper capitalist, hyper productive, whatever. But now they want to hyper produce in the green industry, and that's like the you know, it's not for hyper production. The green for the green industry, right? It's just another way of them trying to make money off of it. So don't fall for that green industry hype. You know, just do the thing. Just don't buy new stuff to be green. Buying more stuff isn't green at all. You know, you're using your, that's all it is. It's another way of stealing money or stealing our work and our labor and keeping people from, you know, actually being green. Because could they want to say, could they still want to, they still want to operate in the capitalist structure of high production, but they want to do it in a more ecological way to try to ease the hippies, right? But they're really not going to be doing anything different because, yeah, I think we can see like it's only just going to be a certain percentage of things that are actually recycled in the first place anyway. Like I saw a video, the recycling industry has been failed because no one recycles and there's no money put into the recycling, and they don't even figure out ways to even make the recycled products useful. You know, it just everything ends up in a landfill, which is what we don't want anymore. We don't want no more trash landfills. We don't need mountains of trash. You know, our ancestors are in this land, you know, buried in this land. You know, we the mounds that our ancestors have, the mounds and pyramids our ancestors built were not full of trash. Um, so, yeah, that first of all. And so just too much trash being produced. So one major thing is moving back to primary composting of our food waste and vegetative waste, obviously. Um, we have the technology. We can build it. And it's super easy to build a composter, right, at home. Like it's just like a thing that you, it's just a bin that you just put your trash in with dirt and leaves and let it, you turn it over every couple months or weeks, whatever, however often. You just turn it to let it compost some more. So obviously what we need are more composting centers. But what really needs to happen is an ability to collect compostable materials and take them to the right composting facility or area. So what it's like I'm thinking backwards, like I'm thinking backwards, like in how this should have been done in the first place. But you know, this is how it should have been done in the first place, and this is what we're going to be doing from now on, or what we will be doing from now on, because there's just no other way for this to work out. So what we really need is a literal, like we need a composting facility for every area, and especially with starting over agriculturally, there needs to be a composting facility in every area. There needs to be a collection of compostable materials to take to the composting site, so that way, it doesn't just end up back in the trash for once, and it actually goes to a mass composting, and then everybody can get a share of that as well, because yeah, it just makes sense. There's really no explanation to it. Like it should make sense in the explanation of it. Like obviously, we should take all our compostable materials to a single place, let it do its thing, and then among the farmers in the area, there will always be enough for everybody in the area. And so with our brand new gardens and our vacant lots and everything, we can start to to give the soil the nutrients it needs to actually grow the food that we need to eat. And if every area, for every area that has a vacant mall, and pretty much every place does have a vacant mall, or vacant homes, right? Then we will have a place for composting in that area. It doesn't need to be some, like Amazon Prime does it. They have distribution centers everywhere now, right? Destroying land to build a new distribution center in like every city. So all these facilities would be in a place easily accessible to the community that it serves. Um, that's one of the major problems with, that's the biggest problem with trash is just too much trash and no one's recycling it. It's not being sorted out. It just, all of it's trash. And we know one man's trash is another man's treasure, but, no one's even looking for the treasures in the first place. Because obviously there's some things that are most definitely just waste and that needs to go to a certain place to decompose properly. But it's also, there's just a whole bunch of food waste. Look at how grocery stores and just the most egregious of this crime of wasting food because it's not profitable to give away your food, or because of these bureaucratic bullshit that keeps people from eating for free as well. Which I think is just so sad and so evil. I think we all agree on that one. But I think it's the over bureaucratic nature that even costs it, because now they do it because they don't want to be sued, but it just creates an even bigger problem, because they're worried about being sued as if a dumpster driver is going to sue you for real. But yeah, it's just all this bureaucratic nonsense that's in the way of most of our prosperity, really. So now we have our composting facility set up in our communities and a collection and a method of collection arranged. Also in the home, there also just needs to be easier way of. Obviously, just put in paper bags. Those are compostable. Just throw the whole thing in there. So yeah, so paper bags for food waste makes sense, and then, or at least some kind of crate that can be returned or whatever like that. I don't know, whatever. But these are things that I feel do work. Because you can always create more paper from old paper. And honestly, there's so much of I've been seeing so much of textile waste. There's so much clothing out there, that's just ending up in trash bins all over the world because people donate their clothes or overproduce clothing, and then it just ends up in trash again as well. That's compostable. That's reusable. That can be, reused, probably several times over until it can become composted, instead of just being burned and adding more problems to our ozone layer. And so also there's, just you can, all this stuff is recyclable, like cardboards and unused books, like textbooks, or notebooks, whatever, that aren't being used anymore. It can be recycled and made into a paper bag again. Excuse me. So it's just all about putting down the material aspect of things. Another step in this is also with our communities and with the children especially. Because I care a lot about children and the upbringing, because that's just the most important. Because that's what we see obviously is with the damage that's been done to children just through the media, through school, these public school systems, private school systems too, but these standards of learning that teach nothing and are just creating more problems mentally because instead of teaching the regular way to do math as we know it, teaching all these other extended ways that are just made to just make your mind over process, and then you're stuck in over processing all the time. It's like overloading your computer. This whole concept of these mini family codes that we have is a main issue, is a main source of a lot of the child abuse that we see in the first place because we don't understand the flow of life. And a seed released from the flower isn't raised by the flower, it's raised by the earth. So as parents, it is our job, or as our job to nurture our little seedlings so they become little saplings to grow on their own. But the whole thing about it is like we're trapped in these little boxes on our own, and the seed doesn't have its room to grow on its own. And then the public school system is like a crop, it's just, we know how crops are treated these days. They're old, they're overgrown, or the soil's been used too many times, so the soil has no nutrients in it anymore. What they give them is chemicals, or at least the major crops are not farming organically. And then in the natural setting of crops, there's a natural setting of agriculture is like having plants that complement each other as well. And also the proper person to take care of them. Because not everyone's a farmer, sure. Not everyone is, not everyone is everything, right? So, we have to like work on, it's just really important to have people that actually are the teachers of young people, let's just say. Because after a certain point, when the child becomes, an independent, or in that stage that they need their own independence and to start learning their skills, the parent can no longer do much more after that. That's why when a kid hits puberty, when a child hits puberty, it's kind of like, okay, well, I don't really know what else to do with you anymore. And you're just in school now, just messing around, not learning. School doesn't really teach you anything, learn anything. So now you're just sort of stuck in school for the time being until, you're legally of age to do whatever, to make your own decisions, quote unquote. When really people can make, the problem is that with school, we just see what happens. The law of cause and effect causes kids to make, it's either, you have the right attunement, you can work the system for what it's worth and whatever, and you become, you join in the capitalist gain of, what school is offering or what this society is offering through school and your labor. Or it rebounds on you and it makes you mentally ill, and it just doesn't work out for you. Or it just makes you into another, or you just finish school and you just finished your job and you just keep going and going until you realize too late that you've just been a slave all over again. So that's what we have to be mindful about and think about. And school also makes us impatient because it just takes all our time up, and then we don't end up learning anything that we really wanted to learn, or do things that we wanted to do, or be constantly faced with our own age because we're of school age, we can't do certain things, even though we have the mental capacity to do so. And unless you have a significant amount of money, or a decent, or a school that actually like has a lot of money to actually focus you in on your gifts that they can profit off of, because now, and I mean, because we see a lot of a 12-year-old got admitted to college or whatever like that. Considering how easy high school is, it's not that hard to imagine, honestly. But the whole thing about it is like, I feel like what they see in there is like they see that someone's awake and they just want to quickly capitalize on that before they they want to quickly take that mind over before they can develop themselves spiritually, you know. Um, so yeah, so those kinds of minds are the ones that should be really we should really be treating every child that way. That they do have an ability, they are you know very creative, very intelligent at that age, and every child should be nurtured that way, where they can unlock their true ability and not be just sent out to slaughter so quickly, you know, or sent so their brains can be analyzed by these top scientists, and then yeah, and who knows what happens after that. So yeah, a lot of our family problems come from this concept of the nuclear family cult that we got going on, which doesn't has not worked for anybody. And this whole we've been we've been spread out across the world and all this kind of stuff, and people thinking that they are not that we are not part of one family, or rather think we're all separated and connected because of ethnic lines and border lines that they created, borders that they made to try to make us feel separate from each other when we're really all one. And I think this is what's led to, this is the major source of the family traumas and distrust that we have and our issues with surviving. Because, that's key to survival is trusting the other person that you're with. Because if you're just two people left on earth, you don't trust that person, that's not going to work out. But when you have a group of people around you that not only that you do trust, but keep each other in check as well. And that's something that's underlooked, because we get into this individualized mindset and we can't trust what other people say. Or like in the spiritual community, we're pretty susceptible to this because we understand that along our development, we're going to have to do away with a lot of people, even our families, our friends. We have to go into a hermit mode to isolate ourselves, to even find ourselves, to even get that connection back. And then when we come out of that cave of self-learning, we now are looking at the world with new eyes and distrusting more things, being more skeptical of things. So we have to not fall into that trap of not trusting each other, and they take advantage of this trap of us because my dude friend was just saying this, like, he brought up Secret Squirrel, and Secret Squirrel, the mole, Morocco the mole, he was wearing a fez, I think that's a big indicator of like the things that we're dealing with is moles, right? But moles can't stand the light too long. So we were dealing with things that are underneath, things that are pretending to be who they are, right? And because we know this, because we know they exist, it can give us a feeling of distrust among ourselves and everything like that. Because the thing about it is, like, this knowledge, this information is, is free information. Anyone can tell you this information. It's up to you to use it and apply the wisdom. The problem is when people are seeking information on other people to try to destroy their reputation. Anyone doing those kind of activities, I think when you're at this level, you can see the obvious, at that point. I'm getting on to the obvious. So when you see people doing those kind of behaviors, those are the moles, because they're just trying to drag you back down underneath with them, right? We want to be aligned with the Most High, and the Most High's intention is for us to love each other and to help each other and to build on this world and to move on to the next. Um, and not get stuck down here. So people who are trying to keep you stuck at a lower level, people who are so-called spiritual, let's say, and they want to so-called spiritual, so-called enlightened, want to keep you down at this lower level, and keep you on this flat earth, is those aren't the people you want to be around, and those are the people that we should bring out into the sunlight and see if they can really stand up to it. So, so we do have to learn how to trust each other and trust with our hearts, and first, like being rational is what got us into a lot of trouble nowadays, because rationally it makes sense to produce and produce and produce so there's enough for everybody, but then to make everybody get a job or so that they can afford these things that we're producing, and so we have people to create the things that we weren't producing, all this kind of stuff. You gotta realize when you start thinking about it, you realize where it came from. Or you just think far enough back the steps, and you'll figure out what the intention was when they created this, and we're like at step 365. So like realize where we're at, and think at the point of using our minds to think back to how we got here. That's why you got to understand our history, know where we came from to know where we're going. That's the gist of it. Also, there is, so just unlearning all that, and just coming into clarity and using your discernment and trusting each other. Just be open to trust as you should be. You have to be open to trusting to let the other person that so we know we're in connection. And it's hard to do because it is a vulnerable space, but our swords are at our sides at all times, in case someone tries to cross you, but you can cross swords with that person. That's the point of crossing swords. It's like, ching, what are you trying to do, bro? So, that's what to understand, to metaphysically apply that. That's why that's why it's bullshit when people be like, oh, love your enemy or whatever. It's like, we don't love our enemies. We have mercy for our enemies. That's, it is coming from a place of love, true, but they're still your enemy. So I will have mercy upon you for, mercy that, the one that is coming to punish you, punishes you accordingly to your actions. And, you can only have mercy for your enemy because they are a part of you, and you can recognize them as a part of you that needs to be taken out, or a part of you that needs to be restored, a part of you that needs to be unlearned and re-educated, and just like that part, that's a part of you that you don't want to prosper. So it's a merciful kill. It's a mercy kill for your enemy. It's like, I care about you and all that, but you're a part of the problem. And when you're part of the problem, you can't be a part of the solution. The solution is getting rid of the problem. If you're a part of the problem, you first have to go away with it. And it is with mercy that I cast you away. And it is with mercy I pray that my enemy is restored to their proper light. And let that be that. So when people are, get killed or whatever, or all that kind of stuff, just have mercy, because that's what that is. What was I really trying to get at? Oh yeah, building together in our communities. So that's what we do about enemies and moles. And we need our discernment and we need our trust to be at a high level to really see these things and allow it to, work. Um, also another next step in this process. So when we have our land and we have it protected, we're growing on it. We've developed our composting, distribution, and collections, and so and now we have to make new schools and getting children educated properly in the ways of in nature, in the flow of nature. And speaking of children, I guess I'm whatever. But yeah, so speaking of children, like like people worry about this baby problem, whatever that we have. It's not a problem to have babies. The problem is energy that's still trying to come out and act out on Earth. So when they started doing all these abortions like crazy, or politicking it like it's just a regular thing to do, is and then it ends up, and then we have these more cases of sexual violence against others as well. It's like it's like a dam, because it's messing with the flow of life. So when you're dammed up on one end, you go out another end, and you end up differently, and you go down a different path that you were supposed to go down. So we have people that are not having the children they're supposed to have, or not taking care of the children they had maybe, and and they end up going down the wrong path, and then they end up having to actually recycle back into the flow, or they're diverted down a path that actually turns them against what they were actually supposed to do. So to really get back into a natural flow of life, so it can actually end the processes that need to take place on the earth, because this is a kindergarten place, and y'all keep blocking the kids from coming through the kindergarten. Like, we're all here trying to learn and get our ancestral energy off of this planet if we want to move on from this planet, because I don't make the rules, but these just are what's going on. It's just what's going on. It's what the spirit has told me. So fucking y'all gotta raise your kids. If you're gonna do that, if you're gonna follow your lust, spirit is gonna use that, energy. It's creative energy. So spirit's like, because spirit doesn't think like we think. We think down here we're just having fun, just fucking around. Well, I don't need no baby, whatever. Spirit's like, oh, these two parties have come together, and these two energies have been brought together in creative forces, and so this is where something must be created, and then you destroy that creation, and then so the spirit is still going to try to find another way out for that spirit that was already in the starting process, and it's going to try to find another way for that soul to come through. And it can be unfortunate, how someone can incarnate. The Hindus have a pretty detailed system about how incarnation works, and this is essentially it. It's like, things have to come out of this. And when you mess with the flow, everything starts going haywire, I think we see that, obviously. The current message, I just finished, I gotta